We are starting a couple minutes early today.
There's a lot of Severance to go through.
We will probably need it. I feel like I would have talked a lot about this episode anyway. Just because it's a finale and, it was kind of a big deal. But it was also a very long finale.
Yeah, they did not fuck around.
Something I enjoyed about it was that it was like it didn't feel bloated. Like it was a long, it was a long episode, but also like they needed that amount of time.
Yeah. I don't think there's maybe one or two scenes they could have trimmed or cut to make it shorter, but I don't think it would have benefited from it.
Not the marching band scenes.
No, absolutely not.
We needed that. Well, let's go.
All right.
Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is your weekly episode of the Jedi Enclave Presents. This is Podcasting Podcast, our little podcast about Star Wars and other nerd-related fantasy sci-fi things. Today, almost no Star Wars again, and I'm so sorry. I can't stress this enough. It's not our fault. If it were up to us,
Disney.
Yeah, we would have tons of Star Wars content all the time, but we're not in charge of it. What we are talking about today, though, is something that has been just a gift that has kept on giving week after week, which is Severance had its season finale yesterday.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday.
And we're talking about that because it was a big deal. It was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. If we have time at the end, we might talk a little bit about Daredevil, which has also cool things happening, but we just don't have time today to do it.
Yeah. There was so much Severance.
Yeah. And we'll have time to talk about Daredevil later. So like next week. So while you're here, go check us out on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Blue Sky. All of those links are in the description of this video. And then if you're the YouTube kind of person, the official release of this podcast will be on Monday morning on YouTube under our podcast tab, so you can check that as well. After this will be Star Wars Battlefront 2 with us and the boys from Gremlin Squad. And okay, we do have one piece of Star Wars news that we'll make very quick.
Lay it on me.
Apparently, the budget for Mandalorian Grogu is reported to be at $160-something million.
That doesn't seem super high.
It's not. It's actually very low, and which is very concerning to me because, the first question is, do they do what they've been doing with The Mandalorian and just shoot the whole thing on the volume? If so, that is going to save them a lot of money.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it doesn't look very good. And it's one of my main problems with season 3. Other than the story was kind of janky, like kind of weird. But you remember all of those scenes on Mandalore that just look like ass? They just don't look, it doesn't look real. It looks, I'm hoping it's not so low budget because of that.
Where it looks like 20 people in fancy armor in a room with TV screens on for walls.
Right, yeah. So I don't want to judge it early, obviously. I fell off of Mandalorian a little bit after the beginning of the third season because it started to get kind of goofy and weird to me, and I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore. So I'm curious to know how they are. We were led to believe that this movie was going to be all the threads coming together.
Yeah, it was supposed to wrap up things, including Ahsoka, which, if you recall back to season 1, ends with Thrawn arriving in the galaxy, presumably to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see how they could portray that convincingly and satisfyingly with
a low budget
with
movie.
A very small budget.
Yeah. I'm not even sure Thrawn's in this movie.
It would not surprise me if plans have changed.
Yeah. You know what probably threw a wrench in it was that they were like, people seem to like Ahsoka quite a lot, so let's do a second season instead of doing one season and then the film.
Which is a terrible way to run
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Like, when you let money decisions make
Artistic choices.
Yeah. Like, the artists should be able to tell the stories they want to tell without being told, hey, actually, we need another season of this because it made a lot of money.
Yeah. Also, 166 million or whatever it is probably dashes any hope of a reappearance of Luke Skywalker, because I think that would probably take a lot of money to do.
Unless they just recast him.
Yeah, that would be a lot easier, and it would be a lot less money, but Kathleen Kennedy already said that they're not ever going to do that. So she's pretty much like, you know what?
Kathleen Kennedy says a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them get canceled shortly after she says them.
She was pretty much like, yeah, we learned our lesson from Solo: A Star Wars Story. And it's like, the lesson from Solo: A Star Wars Story wasn't don't recast the original cast. It's don't give us another Star Wars movie 2 months after another Star Wars movie, where we're also me, the biggest fucking Star Wars fan in the world, sitting there like, can I have a break from Star Wars just for 1 month?
Yeah.
And here comes Solo: A Star Wars Story. Also,
Alden Ehrenreich was not the problem.
Yeah, no, the production was the problem.
Yeah, the problem was that they had to reshoot the entire movie.
The
halfway
entire
through.
movie.
Yeah.
Fucking. This is what's infuriating about corporations, is that they always take the wrong lesson from things. They're like, so what you mean is, and it's like, no, that's not what we meant. It's because it's just a room full of old white guys that are so rich and they have no connection to society whatsoever. And so they just make decisions based on how they interact with the world. And they're like, oh, the youth will like this, right? And it's like, no, they won't, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm not going to rail on corporations the entire time today, by the way. So anyway, that's our Star Wars news.
Okay.
So, let us know in the comments. Do you care about Mandalorian and Grogu? I do. I mean, I'm obviously going to go see it.
I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah.
But slightly less than I was before we had this news discussion.
Yeah. So
anyway,
that is what it is. On the bright side, though, we do get to see Andor in a month.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, all of these episodes of the Jedi Enclave Presents, and now this is podcasting podcast that has not had Star Wars in it, will be nothing but Star Wars.
Jesus Christ.
For 12 episodes worth of Andor.
In 4 weeks. I have no idea how we're going to do it.
It'll be the whole episode, which is fine because we're set up for that.
Yeah, but whenever we do a recap, we take about as long to recap the thing as the thing takes.
Yeah, I know.
So we're going to have just 2-hour podcasts.
Yeah. Well, which is fine. I don't mind.
Yeah, I guess.
I'll go to the bathroom before. All right. So I want to start with, we're going into Severance season 2. I do want to do a brief spoiler free season review for this, because I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of shows that enjoy a measure of success in their first season generally don't follow through very well in the second season, at least as well as the first season went. And they might later go on to have better other seasons. But Severance is one of those shows. God, am I glad that I discovered this show 3 years ago, around when it came out, because it's not something that was on my radar. I don't think I would have watched it if my partner John hadn't read about it on The Verge or something.
Probably some Apple forum.
Right. And was like, oh, well, this might be stupid, but it's got Adam Scott in it, the guy from Parks and Rec. And
also it's executive produced by Ben Stiller.
Right. Which I was
which is really weird.
I don't know. Am I glad? I was hooked from the first episode of this show. And
it's a show designed specifically for you.
I know.
Because they pack so many mysteries into every episode.
I know.
And you specifically are like, what does it all mean?
Right. I must figure it out. Yeah, I know. On top of that, it is undeniably a mystery box kind of show.
Mm-hmm.
It has stunningly good writing, stunningly good cinematography. The acting performances are I can't think of a single role in the show by any of the actors that I don't think are amazing performances.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing has been a joy. And let me tell you, if you've not seen Severance season 2, first of all, if you've not seen the show at all, start at season 1, episode 1. You will not regret the time you put into it. But season 2 is as much a work of art as season 1 is, now that we've seen the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to pull off something like that, like just to have two bangers, like one after another, and not have any big mistakes or anything, I think is really amazing. I think they've done something.
In
really
fairness, they did have 3 years to get this right.
Yes. Oh, speaking of which, so
you saw that Tim Cook from Apple
I was about
already
to
renewed it for season 3.
Did
right?
you see how he renewed it?
Didn't he just go on Twitter and say, "Yeah, we're doing it"?
He posted on Twitter, "Season 3 of Severance is available upon request." A joke from season 1 when they promote Mark and they say a handshake is available upon request.
Mm-hmm.
And he signed it Tim C, which, all the innies go by their first name and a last name.
You're not fooling anyone, Tim Cook. You would not be the severed person in this environment. It would be some minimum wage peon working way down the corporate ladder.
Tim Cook would be Jay Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ben Stiller also said it won't be anywhere close to 3 years from the next season. I think plans are well underway to get it going and everything. So
I think back in February, there were reports that they already had a writer's room together.
Yeah. That is, given that there isn't another world-stopping global pandemic or
strikes across the entire film industry,
or democracy in America as we know it ends. A lot of shit can happen,
which is more likely than you might think.
So who knows? I know that I'm eagerly awaiting the next season. Mm-hmm. So let's get into this. We're gonna spoil it. Do you have any other spoiler-free thoughts before we move on?
I just really want to echo how fantastic the cast is.
Yeah.
Some of whom are playing two different but similar-ish characters, but make the differences come through in their performances very, very clearly. It's
they're all really good at it. The one that sticks out the most to me, and I think their reason is because, so Miss Casey and Gemma.
Yes.
The reason I bring her up is because she was only one personality in the first season. Mm-hmm. And she was very strange, and it didn't seem like she fit into the story in a meaningful way. She was just a weirdo that was kind of around. And had to have the mystery unfold to involve her character more, and for her to play, that woman's got range.
Yeah.
And it's really great. So, yeah.
Anyway.
So, there's no cold open.
Nope, it's just the title sequence, and then we're in.
Yep, straight into the opening title, and we are left where we were left at the end of the last episode, which is Mark in the birthing retreat. Any Mark, face to face with Cobell for the first time since her firing or whatever, right? Since he saw her at, I guess, Rickon's reading thing, and he obviously is what the fuck?
Okay, what's going on here?
What are you doing here?
Why am I here? Why are you here? Why are any of us here?
Also, and just come over here. They told me that you wanted to have a throuple with me and my other guy. Is that
still on the table?
I'm not.
I'm not saying yes, but I'm not saying no.
Right. It's open.
I just need some more information.
Yeah. So she's like, look, have you completed Cold Harbor? And he's like,
no, it's stuck at 96%.
Yep, 96%. She's like, oh, thank God. She's still alive. We can still save her. And it's right around here where I noticed, and in my notes I have, okay, what the fuck are these statues flanking the fireplace? Because it's Kier and Imogen.
Yeah. And later they do a camera cut so you can see them clearly. and like Imogen is very obviously pregnant, and
but
Kier
so
has
is Kier.
Yeah, he has a protruding belly,
and he's got his hand. He's doing the pose like the old ladies do when they're trying to, you know, do a cute picture with their baby bump.
It's weird and uncomfortable, like a lot of things in this show.
Because you know that Kira's probably like, oh, I did as much of that work as she did. Like,
yeah,
you know, fucking.
It's a very Kier thing.
Fucking
to say.
Egans, man, all of them suck. So Cobell describes the long black hallway, right? And Mark's like, oh, you mean from Irving's drawings? And Cobell's like, what?
You know what? Let's just put a pin on that.
Yeah.
Come back later because there's more important shit to talk about right now.
Because you know, you could tell, like when she gave him that information, she's like, oh, this is a big secret. He'll like, this will
He's
take
like,
him.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. She's like, what?
He's like, not only do we know what it looks like, we know where it is. And she's like, son of a bitch.
Okay, number one, incredibly rude for stealing my thunder. But number two, how do you know that?
Yeah. Well, you know, in the back of her mind, she's like, fucking Milchick, man, that would never happen.
Fucking Seth.
You're like, if I were on that floor, if I were still on the severed floor, that would never happen.
It's fucking Milchick and his theremin playing 12-year-old assistant.
Yep. So, we pick up so at the end of not the end, but near the end of the last episode, James shows up in a jump scare in the MDR department with Helly. And,
this is so creepy.
So
because James is so fucking creepy.
Yeah, another actor, by the way, he does a fucking bang up job. Is still, you can tell, this idea of Helly like giving that speech has really gotten, like, he's still dwelling on it, and he came all the way down to the fucking severed floor to be like, I'm still pissed about this. Like, I cannot believe that you tricked me. And
She's
Helly,
like, fuck you, dude. Yeah. You're not my real dad.
Helly is like, I might stab this man with a pen. I'm gonna grab the pen just in case. And I like
just to leave my options open.
Yeah, I like at one point he's like talking about something, and she just flat out is like, "Why are you so fucking weird?"
Because he's using that like not
old
quite
timey,
English that Lumen uses.
God, the whole thing. So, James admits that he doesn't really love his daughter, and he's like, "I used to see Kier in her, whatever the fuck that means, but not anymore. But I see a lot of Kier in you." And she's like, "Well,
aren't you just the father of the fucking year?"
Yes, she's got this look on her face, like, "Well, that might come back to bite you in the ass." And James talks about siring others in the shadows, which it occurs to me here is that he's almost Drummond is almost certainly one of these, because I remember a discussion they had earlier on in the season.
Yep, where Drummond refers to him as father.
Right. So I'm sure he will go very far in the story now that we know that he's a bastard Egan.
Also, it would seem that siring bastards is a family tradition.
Yeah,
the Egans.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, tracks white corporate,
royalty.
Yeah, right. Helly says, and I quote, "You and your family created hell, and you're gonna burn in it." And she's that actor that plays Helly is, every line she says is just fucking great. And like, just after something like that, I'm like in my chair, like, yes, you tell him, fucking fuck this guy.
Get it, girl.
She walks up to him like she's gonna stab him in the fucking throat.
There's a really cool shot where they pull away and like you can see
silhouettes.
the silhouettes in profile, and like she's got the pen like she's gonna lunge at him, and he's like kind of almost leaning back, like, oh god, is she actually gonna try to stab me?
You know, there's a part of him that's like, please, I can't take it anymore.
Release me from this mortal coil.
Being old sucks. Because I'm pretty sure this whole thing, and we still don't have an answer on this, by the way. Pretty sure this whole thing's for him to be in a younger body.
Maybe. Or
for them to resurrect Kier. I don't know.
We'll come back to that because I heard another theory that I kind of like.
Okay. So there's a cool transition where Helly turns her head and it turns into Mark turning his head. It's another thing that you have to admit about this series is that the cinematography is so inventive and neat and engaging, and the way they shoot everything is just, you can tell, like every scene they're like, okay, how can we use the cinematography as a really good way to tell the story in addition to the dialogue and the acting and everything.
If the events are supposed to make you feel disoriented, the cinematography makes you feel disoriented.
Yes. Right. So Cobell, so they're back at the birthing retreat. Cobell's like, okay, here's the plan. You complete Cold Harbor. you disappear and find the hallway in the elevator. You go down, you get Gemma.
No, you don't get Gemma.
Right.
Your Audi gets Gemma.
Right. And this is where things start to get confusing, so stick with me, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go down, and you're going to sever into your
Audi,
but you'll be further down on the severed floor.
Yes.
So
your Audi's going to go find Gemma and bring her back.
Yeah.
You're going to go back up to the severed floor, at which point you are going to get Gemma to the staircase.
But it's not going to be Gemma anymore. It's going to be Miss Casey.
Yep.
And then you get her to the staircase, and then you guys get out. And then after you get through that door, then again, you will be Audi, Mark, and Gemma.
Yes. And also, Lumon is probably going to collapse after this.
Yeah.
Like, if we play our cards right.
Right.
So,
are there any questions? And he's like, so we're doing an Orpheus. We're doing an Orpheus fucking rescues Eurydice.
I mean, you can look at her all you want, I guess. Like, that's not going to hurt the plan any.
Yeah, he's like, oh, God.
Okay, but, like, what happens to me after Lumon goes kaput?
Yeah, because, like, doesn't that mean that my life will end?
Yeah, like I would have to come back to this fucking birthing cabin if I ever wanted to live again.
Right. And she's
my
like,
Audi would have to bring me here.
It's a nice birthing cabin.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of nice? Thus begins a brilliant plot story, plot/story device with a handheld camcorder.
Yes. So Devin just hands him this camcorder and says, like, okay, just fucking watch it and record your response, and then just step out the door onto the deck, and you'll see what happens.
Yep. So Audi Mark has. They must have done this when they were out in the middle of the woods. Has recorded a message for him. It's like, look,
a plea.
Yeah, he's like, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't realize I'd be making like a new person and subjecting them to like a life of torture. And also, I really miss my wife, and like, I really need your help on this. Like, can you do me a solid? And he replies, any Mark says, well, I mean, my life isn't like total torture. Like there's a girl down there that I like, and
and we get waffle parties sometimes,
and
like watermelon heads.
And the waffle parties may or may not lead to an orgy. We're still not very clear on that. I guess only Dylan knows. We should ask Dylan. He probably knows.
We can have dance experiences sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit of defiant jazz. Yeah. So that's not so bad. And also, like, if we do this, everyone I care about dies. And so Audi Mark is like, okay, well, there's a thing called reintegration, and we're going to actually end up both in the same brain. How does that sound? And Andy Mark's like, well...
Okay, how does that work?
Yeah,
he's like, do you get the right side, I get the left side? Right. Or is this like a top-bottom situation?
Yeah.
Or like, how does this work?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm be honest with you, I'm not really sure how it works.
Like, Ragabi didn't like fully explain it.
It doesn't work like that though. There's no top bottom thing. It's and he's like, okay. Andy Mark's like, okay, this all sounds a little bit like bullshit. And also, like, this girl that I like, does she do reintegration too? How does that work? And then Audi Mark's like, I mean, I doubt it. She's an Egan, so she probably won't go for that. Look, I've been married to my wife a lot longer than you've been alive. And like, when she died, I lost my job because I was coming in drunk and shit. And like, look, you've got this girl that you like, right? Yeah. Helene or whatever the fuck her name is. Like, can you just do me a solid here, for fuck's sake?
Like, just imagine all the time that you've liked her, and then like 70 times that long.
Right.
That's how long I've been in love with my wife.
Yeah.
So can you just like...
So take Helene times 70, and then you'll understand.
Yeah.
And you can tell the second he said Helene, he said the wrong fucking thing.
He has done this so wrong.
Yes. And he, like, Andy Mark's like, no, fuck you. And he's like, dude, can you just trust me? And his one-word reply was no.
No.
So Audi Mark fucking gets Cobell and Devin, and he's like, Andy Mark is an absolute fucking terror, and I hate him.
He is a literal child.
He's like, I can't deal with this.
Which
man.
is fair enough, because Andy Mark has the emotional intelligence of a 2-year-old.
Right, yeah.
Because that's what he is.
It makes perfect sense, right? So Cobell's like, I have an idea.
Let me talk to him.
Let me talk to him alone, because me talking alone to someone has never gone wrong ever in the history of this show. So she gets Andy Mark and she like slaps him and is like, okay, listen up. The numbers are your wife. And he's like,
You mean the other guy's wife, right?
Yeah. And he's like, wait. And everyone at home, including my partner and I, were like, what?
Wait, you mean you're actually going to explain what the fuck is going on here?
And she's like, there's a doorway to Gemma's mind, and the feeling you feel when you look at the numbers correspond with the fucking tempers, and every file you complete, a new consciousness is formed, and she has a new innie. Mm-hmm. And so this is where I hit pause, and I was like, here are some questions I have.
Okay.
Is this real science?
Absolutely not.
But it seems to have some kind of efficacy on some...
Oh, you meant like in reality.
Not
in the context of the show.
No, in the context of the show. Like, is this a real science, or are they just doing a weird Scientology thing where they believe that that's true?
Well, I don't know, Daniel. If you look at a giant grid of numbers, do certain ones make you feel like woe or frivolity or whatever the other two tempers are?
So you don't know your tempers is what you're saying.
I remembered them briefly after she said it in the show.
So that's my first question is like, is this real, right? It's kind of like when you watch Lost and you're like, are the numbers actually...
What happens if they don't reset the thing that resets every whatever?
Yeah. Well, we actually know what happens. The whole island explodes. So as a question, were the other MDR employees also working on Gemma or someone else?
After I watched it, I'd read a little bit on the internets. Okay. One theory was that Mark's contribution to the files was like supposed to be from the perspective of someone who knows Gemma really well. Okay. And the others are supposed to sort of like firewall that off from other bits of awareness for reasons that we'll get into when we talk about like what Cold Harbor actually is. But
so they've told us what they're doing, but we don't know why they're doing it. What is the purpose of this experiment? Like, I get that, like, she's like they're the numbers, and we're trying to like make sure that there's no bleed over with feelings and shit. But why? Like, why do this specifically on Gemma? What is the end goal?
Let's put a pin in that and come back.
These were all, I think, intentionally left unanswered for the next season. So, however, I did appreciate that we had a good old sit-down exposition.
Yes.
Your wife, the numbers are your wife. And it's like, fucking knew it. Like,
okay. Let's go with it.
Yeah. So AnyMark is like, okay, why the fuck are you telling me this? And Cobell's like, don't worry about that. The point is, you and Helly are never going to work. Once you finish Cold Harbor, you're nothing to them. They'll just toss you the fuck aside. And AnyMark's like, I don't believe you. And I tell you what, the next thing I better see is the fucking severed floor, or I will find a way to make everything very bad for you. I don't know how. I don't know what I'll do, but like, you will regret. I swear to God.
I will fucking complete Cold Harbor and then sit there at my waffle party.
And then I'll eat my fucking waffles. And I like how he has the foresight to walk downstairs and go out the front door. That way he doesn't leave Mark stranded on the deck. Where you'd have to come back through, you know. So the
very next scene is
AnyMark.
Ding, elevator's open.
He's on the
Mark's
severed floor. He's like, see, that's what I'm talking about. You be assertive. You
let me just step out this elevator. Look at that. Oh my God, what is that painting?
It's a new painting called "The Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor," and fucking everybody is in this painting. These are the people I noticed. Mark is in the center, and he's refining,
having a rapture,
and
while
he's got a hand up and shit. All of his MDR colleagues are there, including the temporary ones from the second episode. And they're on the left with Devin and the baby and Rickon, who, by the way, Rickon, which, by the way, where the fuck has he been?
I don't know.
I think his absence is purposeful, and I'm pretty sure he's with Lumen.
Maybe.
I think they did just a little bit of flattery, and he is like, fuck it, I'm in with Kier now.
Possibly. It's also possible he's just at home working on the revision of his book for the Severed Floor. Same
thing, you could argue.
I guess.
You know? Cobell is there, Bert and that other weird O&D lady, Petey. They're all people that Mark has met, which include the couple of randos at Rickon's party that AnyMark would have run into during the overtime contingency.
Yeah.
On the right is Milchick, Miss Wong, Miss Casey, Grainer, the dead security guy. Their shadows, the guys from the Ortbo.
The Tempers?
Yeah. The board lady, what's her name?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Gwendolyn Christie.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other goat people.
Yep.
And up on the waterfall, the tallest waterfall in the world, is the entire Egan line with Helena in the center, James to her right, Kier to her left, and then all the other Lumen CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's like, the fuck is this?
That's new.
Yeah. So Helly shows up, and they hug and they go down the hallway, and like the hallways now light up to lead them to MDR, right? They have like the flashing lights.
We don't want you to go anywhere else.
Right.
We don't want you to talk to any goat people. We don't want you to find a fucking disused storage room to fuck in. Just please do your jobs.
Mark, so help me God, if you don't do your job today. So they get to MDR, and the wax figure of Kier from the Perpetuity Wing is just in MDR.
It's just there.
It is the creepiest fucking thing ever. And you can tell, like, there's a moment where Hallie looks at it and like tries to see if the eyes follow her.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? There's a note from Milchick.
Mm-hmm. There's a note from Mark.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, congrats! Today's the day. Hellie's gonna watch you from her chair."
And Kier himself wanted to watch you, so that's why we have this here.
Right. Love Milchick.
Mm-hmm. And he opens it up, and there's a pop-up of a waffle on a plate.
Yep. So Mark's like, "Hell yeah, I'm getting a waffle party." Yep. So somewhere on the severed floor, Gemma opens her wardrobe and for the first time sees her clothes that she came in with. Mm-hmm. And I think she assumes that she's going home now, right? Which from her point of view, she's like, well, I just hit that motherfucker with a chair, so maybe that's all it took for them to kick me out, is me hitting a motherfucker with a chair.
Should have tried that a long time ago.
Yeah. So Hallie and Mark chat about what's going on. Mm-hmm. And Hallie basically gives him permission to rescue Gemma.
Mark's like, I don't want to do this because then I won't exist and you won't exist. And Hallie's like, just fucking do it, man.
Yeah, she's like, on the other side of that, and listen to me carefully, fuck Lumen. Like, this could be, you know.
But this entire operation has been dedicated to keeping Gemma locked down in that basement. Fuck Lumen. Let's do the exact thing they don't want us to do, which is get her out of that basement.
Right. So Dylan is brought in.
Yes.
His resignation request has been denied, and Milchick gives him the note that his Audi wrote. Hold on a second. He slides the note over. He's like, your request has been denied.
He doesn't actually say that. He says that there's a response.
Yeah, he's like, there's a response, and it would probably make you really embarrassed if I was standing here watching you read it, and also, I have to go.
I have a very busy schedule today, so he
turns around,
fucking sprints out of the room.
Roadrunner sound on the fucking floor, just like takes off. I mean, that man full on sprints, fucking arms fucking going and everything.
And Dylan's like, okay, that's weird.
Yeah,
but I guess let's read what we got here.
Also, Dylan's like, oh, what the fuck? I hate this place. So he opens the note, and it's a note from Audi Dylan. It's like, first of all, fuck you, which is a very Dylan thing to say.
Yes. Like,
Second
you
of all,
shouldn't have made out with my wife.
Yeah. Second, I get it.
Like, she's basically the best woman in the entire world.
My wife's hot, and we have the same physiology, and it totally tracks that you would think she's hot too. And honestly, water off a duck's ass. Like, I can't really blame you for that. Third, and here's the deal. You're a badass. And I wish I was. And I hope at some point in my life, my wife sees me the way that she sees you. Mm-hmm. And until then, I really like the idea of you existing somewhere. The version of me that is a badass.
So, like, if you want to leave, you can, but I'd really rather you didn't.
Yeah, but the choice is yours, and he leaves the option on the form that says requested or approved or denied. He hasn't checked either. And the pretext being here, Dylan saying, you're a badass, go be a badass. And Dylan's like, well, all right. I'll keep that in mind.
All right.
So Hallie and Mark have this adorable conversation about locations, because like Hellie's like, do I know any other places other than Delaware? Like, what the fuck? I know Zimbabwe and the equator, And Mark's like, what the fuck's an equator? She's like, I don't even know.
Maybe it's a really big building.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And they have this whole funny, goofy little thing. And it's crazy how much chemistry they have. But also how much chemistry the Audi version of Mark what's his name? The guy that plays Mark. Yeah, Adam Scott. The version of the Audi that Adam Scott plays also has an insane amount of chemistry with Gemma too. It's insane how they were able to pull that off. So they're like, okay, well, I guess let's do this. And Mark starts refining his file.
Yeah, he fucking does the numbers, and they go in the boxes.
Somewhere in a room down on the severed floor, fucking Mauser, whoever's like,
he's doing it.
The numbers are moving. So he gets to the final fucking numbers in Cold Harbor, and Helly walks over to watch and slips him the directions to the hallway and the elevator. And I think she kind of realizes that he might not do this on his own, and so she helps. She puts her hand on the trackpad, fucking helps him get it done, and he cordons off the last numbers and sorts them, and Cold Harbor, for the first time this season, reaches 100% completion. And by the way, the last set of numbers was sent into the bin that was marked Frolic.
Okay.
Which was the jerking off one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which, by the way, there's a fan theory, because when they told that parable about Kier and his long lost brother, about how he jerked off in the woods and it was his frolic. Did you notice that Drummond has on his dominant hand, on his right hand, the word frolic tattooed? And I'm starting to wonder maybe if Drummond has a little masturbation problem.
I had never noticed that until you said it.
Well, now you know. Now you'll never unknow.
It explains a lot about Drummond.
No shit. So fucking Chris, the lights go out in MDR. Fucking these other green lights come on. There's stage fog coming out of the fucking
music.
wall.
This was one of the parts where I just burst out laughing. Because, as a very small child, I remember... This is a total aside.
Hey, go for
I
it.
remember watching...
You're allowed one.
The Chicago Bulls basketball games
they're
on TV. Right. Mm-hmm. And, before the game, when the starting lineups were coming out, this was the music the Bulls fucking used.
Yep. And you can tell, Mark and Helly were like, what the fuck is happening?
And fucking Kier comes to life and says, hey... Good fucking job.
Good job. I'm going to twist my hands weird ways.
Now, if you would please direct your attention to the main man, Seth Milchick.
And there's a brief pause, and then he kind of just bursts because he barely made it, right? Yeah. He barely made it. Also, fucking the second this happens, another phone is picked up, and they're like, fucking call Mr. Egan. The motherfucker did it.
Yep.
So Milchick comes in and does this weird comedy / MC routine with this wax figure of Kier. And it is hilarious, but unsettling and horrific at the same time. Because is there a guy feeding lions?
There has to be.
Right. It's the weirdest thing. And the animatronic thing is turning and looking at him and shit, and he's telling these jokes and
a couple of the jokes are at Milchick's expense, and there's a close up on his face, and you can tell Seth Milchick is just about done with Lumon.
His eye twitches, and he's like, oh my god, one more fucking time.
And he makes one little joke at Kier's expense, and Kier just fucking looks at him.
He's like, why do you use such big fucking words? And Milchick's like, son of a bitch!
Look, I have an English degree. I'm really fucking proud of it. Let me have this.
You see, he just, it's I do not understand what it is with this fucking company and the words that I use. But he makes his own dig at Kier, and says something about him being larger than life. But no, really.
Because the statue is 5 inches taller than
you were in real life. The Kier statue seems to rock back and forth and it's very strange. And
Kira's like, fuck you.
Yeah, and it's like, and then that's the end of their little routine. Yep. And then, oh my God, and I have this in all caps, there's a marching band.
Yes. So Seth Milchick says, please welcome choreography and merriment. Yes. He drags Kira out, and the first thing
they wheel his ass out.
Yep, and you hear this drum line in the distance.
Also, you see, like, because you can, like, Milchick's trying to do the stage thing where you never show your back to the audience.
Yep.
And so he's trying to wheel Kira out with a big, like, smile and like show business, you know, like never look like it's not meant to be the way that it is. And it is. Look, I think Milchick as a character is a piece of shit. With no, I don't care what little like crisis he's having with his faith. He is a morally bankrupt man, and the actor that plays Milchick is brilliant.
Yes,
that man is fucking brilliant.
He should win awards for this role. Like half the cast should win awards, but him specifically, he should win.
He might be. I don't know, between him and Patricia Arquette. I mean,
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott is amazing.
Helly.
Yeah.
They
all are.
They're just
crazy.
So like it's hard to pick anyone and say they're the standout because they're all so fucking good.
Even the guy that plays Rickon is really good. The woman that plays Devin is really good. They're all just great. So there's a marching band.
Yes.
And it is.
And they come in doing the fucking marching band version of the Kier hymn.
Yes. And of course, fucking after a costume change. Milchick comes in as the drum major.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
As a high school drum major myself, he was conducting on the right beats. He was doing the right patterns, and he was marching while he was conducting. And it was like, damn, dude, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And like they finish the Cure hymn. And they all have cards, and they all flip them over.
100% with Mark's face on it.
Which, by the way, no one was going to be able to see this.
Yeah.
It was just for us.
It was just for the cameras.
Right, yeah.
But
and it is...
It's that little bit of absurdity that puts this show over the top.
I know, yeah. So, down somewhere, James Egan enters this tiny little room with only one entrance, which is from an elevator that only goes one direction, apparently. I don't know how it works. I just realized, did they not expect him to leave that room?
I don't know.
Because that elevator was kind of like the elevator at the end of the hall, where it only had the down direction. That was his elevator, too.
Yeah, but like a lot of the elevators work that way. Like the one down to the severed floor only has the up arrow.
I guess it does go. We know it goes up because Well,
I'm assuming this is an elevator like those, and it can move in two directions.
Anyway, it's a very important room because you only get to it from this one little bitty elevator and shit. And so he walks in and sits down. There's like a terminal
with 4 buttons.
Yeah, and
for some reason this table has like drawers. Like, do you notice that? There's like one drawer on either side of the desk.
I don't know.
I don't know why they're
What's
there.
in the drawers? Who the fuck knows?
Who fucking knows?
So, wait. The marching band gets another performance.
Yes.
And it's the Ballad of Ambrose and Gunnell, which are 2 of the CEOs. And Milchick fucking gets down with a drum major mace. And it's very reminiscent of the Defiant Jazz episode, where Milchick is just dancing around the room and he's got all of his fucking moves, except this time it's a fucking marching band. And it's like Milchick is having this is the part of his job he loves, because he's having the time of his life. He's taking it so seriously, and he's like, that man can dance, right?
I love that Lumen has an entire fucking marching band that they only bring out for this one occasion.
Yeah, and I also assume that they're severed, so...
I guess. Yeah. Well, yeah, they are.
They would have to be, yeah. So, while all the noise is happening, and while Milchick is honestly so consumed with his dance number that he's not paying attention to much anything else...
He's like, hey, it's time.
Yeah,
watch this.
She says, see you at the equator. And she runs up to Milchick, grabs his walkie-talkie, and runs off, causing him to chase her. giving Mark the opportunity to escape.
Because the marching band's not going to stop him. They're busy.
Well, they also are so in the fucking zone.
Yeah. They are locked the fuck in.
They play almost this entire time. So she locks Milchick in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And even still, the marching band.
She can't lock him because she has to physically hold the door closed.
And she's begging for their help, but they're like, no, we're about to hit the chorus of this motherfucker. Like, sorry. And also, she's like closest to a trombone player, and they're like, we don't do that. We don't help people. Mm-hmm. So right as he's about to bust out, fucking Dylan shows up, and he throws a vending machine in front of the door.
Yep.
And it's a cool entrance for him because like throughout this season, you get a little disappointed in Dylan for losing sight of the mission, and he's also lost a lot. Like Irving leaves, and then he's given this thing where he spends time with his wife, but then that's taken away from him. Mm-hmm. And like they beat up a lot on his character, but also he was the hero at the end of season 1, and like you're like, come on, man, like you fucking started all of this bullshit. It was him finding out that he had a son, mm-hmm. and him freaking out at Milchick in a similar situation, and biting him, screaming, I want to see my son. And that was his breaking moment, and he's the fucking guy with both hands on the switches and shit. And so in season 2, when it's like you're letting them distract you with glorified perks. It's like, come on, man, like you're smarter than that. And so it's cool that he has a moment where he kind of redeems himself a little bit. He's like, fuck it, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So Gemma enters the Cold Harbor room.
While all this is happening, by the way, Mark is like running through the hallways, following the directions.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's on his fucking way. So Gemma is told, she walks into the room and there's a baby crib, and obviously if you've seen the previous episode, this is kind of heartbreaking because you know that when they when Mark and Gemma found out they weren't going to have their kid, Mark had to disassemble this baby crib by himself while he was drunk, and it's really heartbreaking. And they fucking hand her a wrench, and she's like, all right, fucking take it apart. And Gemma, who isn't Gemma, she's another innie. It's just like, okay, whatever.
So this is kind of what the theory I was reading centers on. The theory goes that the point of Cold Harbor was to create a person who is severed so completely they don't have any emotions. They don't have any emotional connection to anything.
Okay.
Because this is like one of the most traumatic episodes of Gemma's life that she's revisiting here. And if she doesn't see any of that and is just able to, oh, yeah, okay, I'll take this crew apart.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing. Then
they know she's a blank slate then,
yes.
I guess.
And so the idea is that Lumon is trying to create a new severed workforce that isn't going to have the sort of independence that the existing severed innies do. They just want like human drones who will do exactly what you tell them.
I like that theory. It's that's way different than I feel like the prevailing fan theory right now, which is that they're trying to find a way to resurrect Kier.
Could also be,
or maybe both. I don't know. Yeah. So Dr. Maurer asks her over the intercom, "Who are you?" Which are the first words of the entire show. Mm-hmm. And Egan, fucking James Egan, is like watching from the terminal. He's like, "Oh yeah, you fucking take that fucking crib apart." So Drummond, there's a whole thing with Drummond and fucking Gwendolyn.
So Drummond like gets off the elevator from the severed floor and like pushes through the wall, and there's this secret chamber.
This Viking motherfucker, I swear to God. So there's a whole thing with a goat sacrifice.
Yeah, Gwendolyn Christie wheels this goat through the hallway.
She's wearing these like funeral-esque black clothes and shit. Basically, the gist of it is they're going to do this sacrifice with a goat and like one of those captive bolt pistols. Mm-hmm. And right before, and it's the cutest fucking little goat in the world. And I was having fucking flashbacks to Jurassic Park when they feed the goat to the T-Rex and shit. And they right before they're about to cap this fucking like goat, they hear this banging.
Well, Gwendolyn Christie asks, "How many more goats are you gonna ask me to fucking kill?" And Drummond's like, "As many as we need to."
A lot, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fucking know.
But yeah, they hear Mark fucking banging down the door to the elevator,
right.
and Drummond's like, hold that thought.
Yeah.
I'm going to go beat someone up now.
Please stay here. So yeah, he goes out in the hallway and starts to beat the shit out of Mark. Just like, fuck it. Because he's like, oh, Cold Harbor's done. Like, I can just beat this motherfucker
In
up.
fairness, Mark does get a few hits back.
Not many. He gets his ass thrown all over the fucking place.
He gets thrown, like, he's being choked out. And finally, Gwendolyn Christie is like, no. We're not doing that anymore. I have this bolt gun to your head.
Yes.
You're just going to relax.
Yes. I like how she's like, no more fucking goats. The answer to that previous question where I asked you how many more of these are you going to kill, the right answer was no more fucking goats. You're fucking read me?
Yeah.
And he like slaps her away. And then they do this thing I've put in my notes. It's very Brienne of Tarth versus the Hound. Because Gwendolyn Christie is a really good physical actor.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised to learn that she did a lot of this like action herself. And she does these little screams that are so baked into my memory from Game of Thrones as Brienne of Tarth, where they're just a split second I was like, oh my god, it's Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
But she beats the shit out of this guy, and you can tell all of these fucking goat sacrifices that they've done have finally caught up with her, and she is finally had enough. And so they get Drummond at gunpoint.
Yes.
The pistol, bolt.
So Mark
pistol
has him at gunpoint. They swipe into the elevator.
Yeah.
Mark is like, all right, in a second, I'm going to turn on my Audi. And like in the transition, like his hand spasms or something, and he just fucking kills Drummond.
Not immediately.
Nope. Drummond like chokes and bleeds out all over Mark, which imagine for a second that you're Mark Scout, right? So you got into the elevator, went down to the 7th floor, fine. The next thing you know, this man is bleeding all over you and
arterial
dying.
Spray. Yeah.
Like, that would be just about as disorienting as it's possible to be.
So Helly, so they barely have Milchick contained, and they're using euphoniums and tubas and shit on top of that.
Yeah.
And Helly turns around and pleads with the band members and explains, she's like, you know that they make people fucking disappear, and like that could happen to any of us, and I need your help. And so Mark has entered the severed floor looking like John fucking Wick. He's covered in blood.
Yeah.
He's got a captive bolt pistol for whatever reason. He probably has, by the way, no idea what's happening with that. He finds the nurse and threatens her. He's like, I'll fucking shoot you. She's like, no, you fucking won't. And it's this whole thing where they scream at each other and she just runs away.
Mark is like, well, shit, now I need to get in here. Let me just put my hand on here. And ow, fucking needle poked me.
Yep.
And the door still isn't opening. So he's like, wait a minute.
I'm covered in Drummond's blood. I'll just use that.
Yeah, let's just use some of Drummond's blood.
Yeah.
And
which works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark is reunited with his missing wife.
This severed version of Gemma.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's important to point out that she is this like weird blank version of Gemma, but she isn't as blank as they wanted her to be. I don't think, because he tells her, "You have to come with me. You have to trust me." And I feel
I'm
like,
your husband.
yeah, if she was actually as blank as they wanted her to be, she would have no reason to do that. It would be a crazy man with a gun covered in blood.
Well, he doesn't have the gun at this point.
He's
just covered in blood.
Yeah. But something in her, something breaks, and she trusts him, and she grabs his hand.
It's also noteworthy that over the intercom,
oh my God,
guy's like,
Dr.
Don't listen to him. Don't do what he says.
Pay no attention to the man behind the gun.
Pay no attention to the blood-covered man in the room.
So Jamie Egan, who is watching this on the terminal,
it's like, oh, fuck.
Screams the word fuck.
Fuck!
It's so good. So Milchick gets out of the bathroom to find this fucking great hero shot of Dylan and the entire marching band.
So when Gemma leaves the room, the entire severed floor and severed floor start.
The alarm
is going
goes,
off. Yeah. They're all flashing red, and that's the point I think at which Milchick is like, "All right,
I must get out of here.
I must get out of here. Everything is going wrong."
Yeah, and he hulks himself out of that room.
Fucking shoulder tackles through the vending machine, and
but between him and the door is fucking Dylan and a whole marching band. And Dylan's like, oh, give
fuck
me,
you.
yeah, fuck you, Mr. Milchick. And it's like, yes. So Gemma leaves the Cold Harbor room and changes into actual Gemma. And for the first time, actually, Audi Mark and Gemma are reunited. And it is such an emotionally charged moment that if you watch it and you don't feel anything, you're dead inside, because they both act the shit out of it. You can tell, you feel like they've desperately wanted to see each other this entire time, and they finally have. And like he's like, we gotta go, girl, and she's like, I thought you'd never ask. And so they run. Fucking Dr. Maurer, who is like pinwheel running, like trying to catch up to them, is like, don't go. And right as the elevator is shut, they have to kick Drummond out of the way.
Kick his legs out of the way.
Maurer screams at them, you'll kill them all. And then the door closed. And I was like,
wonder what he means by that.
Does he mean all 25 different versions of Gemma? Because honestly, I doubt either of them would care about that. Or do they mean something else?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That is a question for season 3.
So they both sever. So first of all, they start making out.
Yeah, they start making out. The elevator comes up. It dings. And Miss Casey is
it's Annie Mark and Miss Casey. Yeah.
What is happening?
And Annie Mark is as confused as she is. He's like, why? We found you.
Okay. Let's go this way.
Yeah. So, let's see, where am I in this? So Mark gets her to the stairwell, and Miss Casey goes through the door and is severed back into Gemma. And Mark closes the door, and he turns around and he sees Helly. And he turns around.
And Gemma's like, no, dude, come here.
Let's go.
Come on,
let's go. Yeah. We're fucking right here. And he chooses Helly because it's Annie Mark. It's not Audi Mark. Yeah. It is worth pointing out that Gemma has no idea that her husband is severed. So to her, this is like, you tell Gemma's like, who the fuck is she?
Who's that brazen hussy?
Right. So he goes to Helly, and Helly gives Gemma this really strange look that made me think that it was Helena there for a second. She had this look on her face like, haha, I won. And I'm not sure if that's what she meant. It really felt like that. Maybe. And then I did also notice that as she comes around the corner, she's not wearing her high heels, which was a thing that Helena did on the severed floor. She'd take her high heels off. So I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know what kind of mindfuckery that would even be. But the entire season ends with them hand in hand running through this red and white fucking hallway, and they do this super cheesy 80s freeze frame.
Yeah.
And they zoom in on them, and that's how the whole fucking season ends. And it's like, you know what? Good for you for taking such a massive swing, and it was a hit, in my opinion, too. I still think the season 1 finale is still my favorite episode, I think. But so many of the next ones on that list are going to be from season 2, including this last episode. It just, the whole thing was a home run. And I'm glad that someone gave these guys, the showrunners and the directors and everyone else, they gave them permission to just follow their instincts with how to make it.
To be weird.
Yeah, and just do the weird shit they wanted to do. And in the process, in doing so, made a work of art that you don't see often on TV anymore. And so anyway, if you've not seen Severance yet, go and check it out. It is fucking worth your time.
You're very late if you just sat through the last however long we spent talking about
it. It's like you've already seen it. Yeah. We are going to reset here and play some Battlefront, so we hope you will join us then. It'll be a lot of fun.
We'll probably talk about Daredevil a little bit there.
We'll